In a stunning development, Israel has launched a massive airstrike against Iran. What they say, it's to disrupt imminent Iranian nuclear capabilities. Just what did the Israelis do? What did they target? And how do we know that this is not over? Not by a long shot. I'm Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran. Let's talk about it. Okay, so this is a map of, well, Iran, and you can see where a large number of Israeli strikes have taken place across the country, particularly in the country's western areas, but really stretching in throughout the country. You can see that the primary targets, according to the Israeli Air Force, they launched over 200 aircraft in what they called an opening round of strikes, right? Which right there, they're telling you that this is not the end. This is only the beginning. This included over 330 munitions dropped in the strikes, which to me, the reason you're going to have 200 aircraft dropping 300 munitions generally means that this was about the element of surprise. Israeli also reported that top Iranian officials were killed in the strikes, including the commander of Iran's military, Mohammad Bagheri, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps chief Hossein Salami, and head of their central headquarters, right? So this was a decapitation strike in addition to a capabilities strike. And I think that's why we're seeing 200 aircraft dropping 330 munitions, because that means each aircraft had essentially a single target, right? And what that implies is that their goal was to have as many aircraft strike their targets as possible. What they wouldn't want to have happen is for, say, the nuclear facilities to get targeted first, and then they look around and say, hey, all the nuclear facilities are targeted. Either take our central command staff and get them into separate bunkers, ferret them away to safe houses or other locations that might not be known or difficult to track. So the idea was that in a single instant, all 200 munitions, or the first 200 munitions, would go down onto their targets. And we can see from some of the leaked images that they were at least partially effective. This is a target of their enrichment complex. And you can see that this enrichment complex looks like it's been hit multiple times with multiple smart weapons because, well, you can literally see that there was some netting over this. Likely the actual enrichment complex was in a basement. So it looks like at least one munition cracked it open, and then a second strike penetrated into the facility, damaging it. You can also see an electrical grid here, transformers being taken out, possibly to prevent some kind of response. You can see also here, it looks like another sort of area taken out. And then this looks like it might have been collateral damage against another building, because you can see that this building not even completely destroyed. So I think this is pretty emblematic of these strikes, but there's more to it than that, right? Because key capabilities within the Iranian military also appear to have been disabled. But before we talk about those, I wanted to mention that we are having our Strike Gum Father's Day sale, right? So if you're someone who's been waiting for a chance to get Strike Gum at a discount, the 5-packs are now 20% off, right? Just $20 for a 5-pack, only at strikegum.com. The discount's automatically applied. You just add it to your cart and it will calculate that. So the link is in the description. Support yourself, right? Being a dad, as hard as it is, it's hard to get everything done that you need to do. I get it. I'm a dad. And Strike Gum is for you guys. It gives you the energy that you need when you need it, right? With all the caffeine of an energy drink, right? And none of the sugar. So if you're tired of spending $5 on energy drinks that make you feel bloated, that you have to carry around while you're carrying your kids or your snack cup or whatever, Strike Gum's the way to go. Put it in your pocket, put it in your gym bag, get the energy to crush your goals. Okay, so let's talk about something interesting. And this is incredibly routine footage, but it's reportedly an Israeli drone flying freely, conducting reconnaissance in the Iranian city of Tabriz. There's nothing really exceptional about it, right? It's just a little old drone putzing along, conducting reconnaissance. But here's what's significant about it, is that it's a little old drone just putzing along, right? You notice this isn't a stealth drone. This isn't jet powered. This is moving very slowly. It is circling around, it is not really doing anything. And it is directly overhead in an Iranian city. The reason this is so notable is what this implies is that, at least in some places, that Iranian air defenses have been crippled, right? Because this is essentially just a tiny little easy to hit target. Even a rudimentary air defense system, even a 2 or 3 generation old air defense system would be able to take this out. And we know, or reportedly, this is again from the Times of Israel, has reported as of 5 a.m. this morning that Israeli intelligence actually carried out sabotage operations against Iranian air defenses and long-range missiles, right? The airstrikes were basically that the intelligence agency conducted several operations against Iran inside Iranian air defenses in order to prevent them from being mobilized against this series of strikes. But what's also interesting is that the fact that these air defenses failed so epically implies that, well, the Russian air defenses are also kind of humiliated, because Russia very publicly provided its air defense systems and likely personnel and consultation to Iran, right? And this is something where Russia probably told Iran, listen, we have fought a US-backed, a NATO-backed ally who has the same exact equipment, and our air defenses are able to stop them effectively. But this is obviously not the case, given that, again, Russia publicly disclosing it provided a lot of these long-range air defenses to Iran following the earlier round of strikes in October of last year, where Israel, quote, had seriously weakened Iran's defensive capabilities. This is, I think, part of a larger narrative of actually cooperation between Ukraine and Israel, right? We heard, for example, from the Israeli ambassador to Ukraine that they had provided Ukraine with older air defense Patriot missile batteries, and Israel got supposedly backfilled by the United States in some capacity. And this is not done out of the goodness of the Israelis' hearts. This is probably given that they went to the Ukrainians and said, listen, we need to know how you beat Russian air defenses. What does a Russian air defense protocol look like? What do the Russian air defense setups look like? And how are these technologies beatable? And I'm sure the Ukrainians were happy to share their information. It's something that they have very explicitly said about their experience. They say, listen, we are, in terms of our ability to counter Russian tactics, we are the best in the world. We know more than any military. We are more capable of it than any military. And as a result, the Ukrainians were probably happy to share this with Israel, what is increasingly an alliance between countries who both, for different reasons, feel like their primary benefactor, the United States, has left them hanging out to dry. Right now, again, we could see this from an earlier article. This was published in April of this year, so just a few months ago. It says Iran is doing all it can to rebuild its air defenses, and it showcased S-300, Russian-made S-300 launchers. And this analyst speculated that Russian and Chinese assistance to Iran was essentially a certainty. And so all of this collectively tells a story that the Israeli ability to strike these targets is vastly outweighed or was vastly superior to Iran's ability to counter them. And more importantly, that shows that Russia's ability to counter modern air defenses is still not that great. Now, the Israelis likely deployed a lot of conventional F-16s, but they may have also had access to stealth aircraft, right? Let's see if we can find it on Wikipedia and determine if exactly what sort of aircraft they have been flying. So yeah, here we go. We can see that there are about several F-35, a few F-35 variants that reportedly entered service in 2016, but nobody can really say how many they have. That's likely a pretty classified piece of information. But having the ability, right, having stealth aircraft and the ability to cut through radar air defenses, likely these F-35's job was to conduct the final round of targets against Iranian air defenses that would not have been able to detect them. So they hit them with these strikes, and then they sort of open up the airspace once the air defenses have been taken out for F-16s and F-15s to enter the airspace and conduct the more substantial strikes, right? Opening up the corridors, and then these conventional strike aircraft come in, hit their targets, and turn around and go back. So this is why these sort of these aircraft are seen as so important to any kind of operation, why stealth aircraft are just such a game changer. And one of the things I think is pretty funny is that, Elon Musk was extremely critical of the F-35. He said stealth aircraft are pointless. You could just detect them with a heat signature thingy. But the problem is that these F-35 likely launched their payloads from beyond visual range, beyond the horizon. So there are no pixels to detect. There is no heat signature to detect because it is literally around the curvature of the Earth. And so the only things that can detect them are, again, radar stations that are constantly sort of projecting out, right? A network of radar stations. And once you have stealth aircraft, they're just not able to be detected by radar. They can't be detected visually because, again, they're blocked by planet Earth itself. With beyond visual range, beyond the horizon combat aircraft, these F-35s had launched their payload before they could be detected visually. So not a great time to be Iran, but Iran is definitely going to have a response, right? They've already reportedly launched an initial volley of drones, but the Iranians, it's not clear, given that their missile capabilities have been pretty badly disabled, given that a lot of their leadership has been taken out, given that a lot of their communications has also likely been taken out. It's unclear how they're going to mount a meaningful response to this. And that is, I think, one of the problems that Iran is facing, is that normally they rely on their proxies like the Houthis, like Hezbollah, to a lesser extent like Hamas, to engage in this level of counterstrike. But they have all been disabled and taken out by the Israelis. And then you have only the Iranian military itself, but it's not clear that they have the capabilities to launch significant, meaningful strikes against Israel. Because remember, the other consulting that the Ukrainians almost certainly did was to tell Israel, listen, Russian strike packages, right? Russia has been experimenting with Shaheds for a long time. Shahed literally is an Iranian name. It's a Persian name because it's an Iranian weapon system. And so the Iranians are definitely going to launch a Russian-style strike package at Israel. They believe that's the best bet to counter Israeli air defenses, well, because like Patriot missile batteries. But the Ukrainians almost certainly are on the ground, almost certainly providing technical expertise to help Israel counter this threat. And hopefully, in turn, Israel is willing to provide support to the Ukrainians, probably particularly in Israel's specialties like intelligence gathering, something that the U.S. again appears to be walking back from. Anyway, guys, that is all I had. I will keep you posted as this continues to develop. Thanks to our Colonel tier members like Peter Fucci, Dan M, Petra Toro, Henry Russier, Ida Skycall, Chris Rossi, AL90, Sergei Zinchenko, D. Stewart, James Porsche, B. Hemmerling, and all of our Lieutenant tier members. I could not do this without you guys. You guys are the ones who make this whole thing possible. Appreciate you all so much, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.